Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this squared neck raglan sweater with cable knitting. Let's get started. Okay, first of all, please check my description box for all the details. I put the link for my website so you can go there and download my written pattern. Again, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this beautiful raglan sweater with squared neck. I think this is first time to show you how to knit square neck with lace seed big cable. This is beautiful. I love the texture. And the rib for the body and sleeves is using KBL, which is knit back loop and purl rib. And top of the neck, I use the garter stitch. All right. I was actually thinking whether I should do I-cord bind off or garter stitch neck, and I decide I use the garter stitch for around the neck. Anyway, you have to knit your swatch with your yarn and needle and knit 4x4 swatch. I didn't actually knit 4x4, 4x2 I did, and let's find out the cast on number. Okay, so this is my gauge math template. If you haven't downloaded my Excel document, please go to my website to download it because it's very useful. Okay, so let's find out my cast on number. Okay, in this red section, you have to put your swatch information. Okay, I only knit 4-inch across and 2-inch height swatch. And I count the stitch count and row count. 19 stitch within 4-inch and 13 rows within 2-inch. And now you have to measure around your neck. I should say desired neck opening as round neck. All right. My actual neck measurement is 12-inch. But this time I kind of want to have a big neck opening at the end. So I measure myself and I pick the number, which is 22-inch as round neck. So I am going to put 22 in the yellow section because let's read, find out stitch count from the length. I know the length, which is 22. So 22-inch. And this is yellow section and come down yellow section here. 104.5. So if I want to knit 22 inch with my gauge, at least I have 104 or 105 stitch count. Okay, but this is not done yet. Let's go down. Okay, so first of all, I have to pick the number multiple of 6. So right here, I am going to put 6. Enter. And then try to find the number close to 104 or 105. And let's go down right here. 102 or 108. And I pick 102. And can you actually see the number, here? It says 17. This is my base number. I call it magic number, okay, which is 102 divided by 6. That's it, okay? So I pick 102. Okay, let's see here. 102 divided by 6 is 17. This is magic number or base number. And now you have to do this. 17 times 4. What is 4? Okay, right here. Magic number times 1. This is your sleeve. And you have 2 sleeve. So magic number times 1. And right here, magic number times 1. And this magic number times 2 is your back part. Okay, so 17 times 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why 4. Plus 2 and 2. 2 and 2. This is front stitch to start with. So 2 for front, 17 for sleeve, 34 for back piece, and 17 for another sleeve, and 2 for the other side of the front. And if your number is different, you have to do 2 magic number times 1, magic number times 2, and magic number times 1 and 2. And you have to add it up. So 17 times 4, another word, magic number times 4 plus 2 plus 2. My cast on number will be 72. The reason why I have to do this, I have to get rid of the front piece, but I need at least 2 stitches to start with for both sides for front piece. You know what I'm saying? That's why I get rid of the, the front piece completely, which is 34, same as actually back. However, I add 2. Just, follow my instruction. Your cast on number should be magic number times 4 plus 2 plus 2. All right? So, there you go. Let's move on to actual knitting. This is what I used. All right, so cast on. My cast on number, according to my math, is 72. So 72 or your number. Cast on. And today, I'm going to knit in flat until neck opening connected. Okay? So, I finished cast on and turn around. Like I said, I am going to knit in flat. So, wrong side. Preparation row, all purl, and adding markers. Where you put the markers, as I divided earlier in the, the math, okay, 2 everybody, and magic number times 1 for sleeve, and back, sleeve, and then 2. Do you remember? Yeah, that's how you actually add the markers. All right? And I finished the prep row. As you can see, those 2 stitch for both sides, that's going to be the front piece. Then sleeves, both sides, obviously. And then back piece. All right? And right after that, I am going to increase at every markers. Okay? Right side of the marker and left side of the marker. And I'm not going to increase right out front. So this is increasing row number 1. Knit until last 1 stitch right here and make 1 right. Picking up the previous stitch right side. Okay, I'm not using the running thread. Hook onto left needle, then knit that extra stitch. And then knit original stitch. This is make one right. And now left side of the marker, you can pick right side of the previous stitch because this is left side. So if it's left side, knit original stitch first and then 2 down. That's gonna be your previous stitch. So left side of the previous stitch, you hook onto left needle and knit back loop. This is make one left and I add 2 because 2 stitch down. And keep knitting until one last stitch before the marker. I'll show you one more time. Okay, this is make one right. So right stitch of previous stitch. There you go. That's the one. Picking up instead of the running thread. All right. Then hook onto left needle. Just take your time if this is your first time, and then knit front loop and then knit original one. This is make one right, and left side make one left second. Okay, you can't just pick left stitch like that, it's gonna be twisted. So knit the original first and then 2 down, left stitch, picking up and hook onto left needle, then knit back loop. This is make one left 2. 2 means 2 stitch down because you have to knit original first, and you have to increase every marker. And here comes, this is the last marker, make one right. So picking up the right stitch of previous row and knit front loop, and then knit original, slide the marker and make one left 2, means you have to knit original first, okay, and 2 down. If it's 1 down, you just knit, so you can't really increase, and knit until the end. Okay, this is total increasing row number 1. Okay, so I increase every marker right and left, so I increase 8 stitch total. Then row number 2, just all purl, and you just have to knit row number 1 and row number 2 until your desired length. Probably the neck opening length hits you first. So whenever you feel like, okay, this is good enough opening, then you have to connect the increasing still, keep going. And there you go. Can you tell? I need about 5 inch, right on the raglan line. Okay, that's not enough for my sleeves, but the big enough for my neck opening. So I decide I am going to connect front piece. Okay, so I just want to make sure one thing. Okay, next row should be right side of the row, which is increasing, and you cannot stop increasing. You have to increase. When you stop, enough length for sleeve to separate. Okay, and after the right side increasing row, I will add new cast. Okay, so first of all, nothing happened. You just have to, do row number 1, which is increasing. Okay, and at the end of the increasing row, I'm going to add it. So that's going to be my new begin. And how many new cast I'm going to add? You have to do little math. Okay, first of all, how many back stitch to start? 34 for me. And then minus 2 each side for front. 34 minus 4 is 30. So I am going to add 30 new cast. And just before the new cast, I'm supposed to add new begin marker. However, I didn't because it's a little bit awkward. So I can actually add it later on. So anyway, I add 30 new cast, and again, this row is wrong side. Do you remember? I was supposed to add new begin just before the new cast, right? So this is increasing row number 2. Okay, so you have to remember that. So knit 1 round. No more purl because I am knitting in round. So increasing row number 2 should be all knit instead of all purl. And then you just keep increasing. Okay, there you go. I already add begin marker right after the row number 2, which is just before the new cast. And now you pass the new begin marker, then increasing row number 1 starts. Okay, and I want you to prepare for cable knitting right after that. Okay, so the cable knitting, you need 24 stitches, and I want you to add markers right in the center of front piece. Well, the cable knitting itself is only 18 stitches, and I add 3 stitches both side. That shows cable knitting more visible. So if you don't really have enough stitch count or you want to add more purl section, you can do that. But 24 stitches for me. Now cable knitting starts. So I only talk about the front part. Okay, easy. You only need to remember 3 rows because every odd number of the row, which is wrong side, same as row number 1, cable knitting row number 1, and every even number except the row 14 is same as row number 2, which is right side. Okay, and row 14 is the only time you gotta do cabling. And this cable design completes right on row number 24, right side. And you just have to repeat. Okay, so quite easy. Let's start. Cable row number 1. This is actually wrong side, but there's no wrong side. Okay, so after the marker, okay, purl 3 to start, and then knit 3, 1, 2, 3, super easy, and knit 2 together. Then yarn over, yarn front, yarn over, knit 7. 5, 6, 7. And then knit 2 together. yarn over, knit 4, and purl 3. Again, the first and last purl 3 is kind of optional. If you want to add more purl, you can do that. But, purl 3 would be great for me. So, there we go. And then, again, you pass the cable knitting section and you just keep increasing if it's increasing row. But this is, wrong side, so it should be my increasing row number 2. Okay, so again, if you want to do just add 18 stitch cable, you can get rid of the first and last purl 3. If you're needing much smaller size or whatever, okay, it's really up to you. And now you gotta do 2 things at the same time, cable knitting and then increasing. So you gotta be very careful. I put the right side and wrong side for cable knitting. It doesn't really mean you have to knit flat. I just wanna remember wrong side means I'm not increasing on that row, something like that. So it's really up to you. And now, cable knitting row 2. Okay? After the cable knitting marker, purl 3 to start, obviously. And then knit 2. Purl 1. And knit 1. Then here's the one. Yarn over and SSK. And first stitch, this was the yarn over in previous row. So it's a little bit awkward, but don't worry about it. Okay? I just did SSK and purl 1, knit 4, and purl 1, after this it's kind of repeat, knit 1 and then yarn over, then SSK. So there we go. The first stitch was yarn over in previous row. So it's a little bit awkward, but nothing wrong. And then purl 1, knit 2, and purl 3. And again, you just follow my written instruction, because it's all same except the, row 14. So I meet you on row 14 for cable knitting, but I guess I needed it enough for sleeves. So let's talk about how to separate the sleeves now. All right? Okay, so just keep knitting, increasing, and doing cable. So cable knitting, again, just keep knitting. And for the increasing, I knitted it about 7.5 right on the raglan line, and I believe this is enough. So now I have to take all the sleeve stitch, transfer onto scrap yarn, and this has to be done increasing row number 1 without increasing. So I just finished the increasing row number 2, which was no increasing anyway, right? The reason why, when you transfer all the sleeve stitch onto scrap yarn, I don't like yarn over. That usually, awkward, So anyway, I'm actually doing the cable knitting, whatever your row. Okay, then just keep knitting until the first sleeve marker. I'm just telling you, this is probably seems like row number, 2 for cable knitting, whatever. It's a little bit confusing sometimes because, two things at once you have to think, right? Anyway, when you hit the first sleeve marker, okay, remove the marker, then transfer all the sleeve stitch onto scrap yarn. Okay? Try not to drop any stitch off. Okay? Pick all the sleeve stitch. And when you transfer all the sleeve stitch, tie the knot loosely. So, you can actually put it on later if you want to, to make sure the size is good and all that, right? And now you have to connect front and back without sleeves. And you have to add few stitches, about 1 inch worth. 4 to 8 stitches, usually ideal number for new cast adding. I add 8 stitches total underneath of my armpit. All right? And this is the actually only time you can add more stitch or less. Okay? If you want to make the body bigger, you can actually add 16 stitch or 20 stitch, whatever stitch you satisfied with, right? So I add 8. You got to remember that. And then keep knitting. This time, back piece, right? You just got rid of the first sleeve. So just knit until the other side and you do exactly same thing. Transfer all the sleeve stitch onto scrap yarn. And I just did. And then add 8 new cast, same as the other side. And then keep knitting, this time front piece, connecting. And, I just connect, so you still have to knit in round, okay? So after this, no more increasing, so it's easy because you can focus on the cable knitting, right? Besides the cable knitting, just all knit. No more increasing. So just keep knitting until your desired length. And by the way, one thing I want to tell you, I add 8 stitches for the new cast, right? For both sides. I did garter stitch there. Okay, garter stitch in round. If knit on the row 1, the second row purl, and you just have to repeat row number 1 and row number 2. That's gotta be garter row, garter stitch in round. Because I was thinking I maybe want to split, at the end of the body, but I didn't. But this is actually nice accent, little bit. You can see a little bit, thinner because of this, texture change. So it's really up to you. So both side under armpit, I add garter stitch. Anyway, that's option. And now go back to cable knitting. I'll show you how to do cable row number 14, right side. Okay, so knit until the cable marker. And again, for 3 is just an all purl. So purl 3. And now with the cable needle, okay, you slip 9 stitch with cable needle. So transfer first 9 stitches onto cable needle, okay, and hold it out front. Make sure about it. Slip 9, and rest of them should be 9 plus purl 3, okay, because you know the cable knitting is 18 stitch total, so half of the cable knitting, which is 9, and from the left needle knit 2. It's really hard, so take your time. Purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, SSK. The first stitch should be yarn over from previous row, okay, and purl 1 and knit 1. Purl 1, and I'm sorry, knit 2. Then after the 9 stitch, come back to cable needle and you do same stitch. That's pretty much it. So again, it's really hard, so take your time. Purl 1, knit 1. Yeah, it's getting tighter and tighter, but hang in there. Yarn over SSK, then purl 1 and knit 2. If you don't like this, you know, little complicated stitch, you can do just all knit, you know, knit 18 and then just a C18 front, cable 18 front, and you don't really need to do SSK and all that, you know, just regular, you know, big cable. Okay, it's really up to you, but I really like this chunk, you know, big cable knitting. And after that, don't forget about the purl 3, okay, then done. And again, you know, rest of the row 15 to row 24, just follow my written instruction. Easy. And again, this cable knitting complete right on the row number 24. Okay, and I believe I repeated 3 or 4 times. You know, I love that texture, you know, because of the yarn over. There's a little, you know, the gap, you know, open, and right after and right in front of the, you know, knit two together SSK, there's purl knit combination, which, you know, makes seed stitch. So it's not really simple cable, you know, there is more texture, you know, and which I really like. Okay, so just keep knitting for the body until you're desired length. Okay, and for the side part, it's up to you. I'm glad I add garter stitch there, and there you go. Can't you tell? It's kind of nice texture right on the cable, also the side part, right? And now I'm gonna start making rib with smaller needle. I use 3.5 millimeter now, and then repeat of KBL, which is knit back loop, then purl. You repeat knit back loop and purl one. That's it. Again, knit back loop gives you a little bit more, texture, and I like it sometimes. I guess depend on the the sweater design. And I thought KBL and purl one rib would be better this time. And then you add rib as much as you want, and then bind off. Beautiful. I need about 3-inch for rib. Okay, I don't really have to show you bind off this time, just a regular bind off. And I already knit one sleeve, slowly decreasing. Okay, and it's beautiful. I did the stretchy cast off as well, and I'll show you this time. Now let's talk about sleeve connection. Okay, I already transfer all the stitches onto needle. Okay, and I add one marker before the last original, and I'm going to add 2 more. One is in the center of new cast right there. So I add 8 for new cast, so 4 and 4. That's gotta be my new begin marker. Okay, and I am going to knit up. Okay, right here, right after the last original. In between last original and new cast, there's 2 stitch, and this side too. That's 2 extra knit up that I'm going to, besides above the new cast. Okay, so you will going to knit up 2 extra, and then you decrease those 2 extra next row. Okay, so you're going to knit up right on top of the new cast, and then 2 extra both side, and then decrease. Can't you tell right there? Usually, okay, those 2 extra area, there's a big gap if you just knit up only above the the new cast, and people has to kind of sew them and try to hide it, right? And I want to minimize that big gap. So the best way is knit up 2 extra and decrease. So when you knit up, don't just grab the one running thread. You always grab 2 thread. Okay, the 2 stitch down of the last stitch, and then knit up, and then next extra one, yeah, same thing. There you go. Pick up other stitch right side of the new cast or whatever, and then grab that thread, then knit up. So I just knit up 2 extra part, which means right after this, you have to knit up right on top of the new cast, under your armpit, right? And where I'd add the garter stitch. So it's quite easy for you to see what I'm doing. And right in the center of new cast, for me, after the 4 stitch, I add new begin. And then another 4 to knit up. However, after, okay, I knit up 3. After the begin marker, I am going to add temporary marker because that's where I am going to start decreasing for this side. So I knit up the last new cast and now 2 extra. So again, 2 stitch down and then grab that running thread. If it's hard, grab the other needle to help assist. Yeah, that way. And 2 thread, and then there you go. Take your time. Then knit up the 3rd extra and the last extra one. Again, you have to pick up the thread. Just like, make one right and make one left. Picking up the previous stitch. And now you gotta knit all the way down to first temporary marker. Okay? Yeah, that's the one. So I knit up 2 extra each side, and now I am going to decrease 2 stitch each side. And super easy. So when you knit until the temporary marker, for me, red one, okay? Right after the temporary marker, the one last stitch, right? And then next one should be extra. You do SSK. And next one, second extra and first new cast knit up, you do knit 2 together. To minimize the big gap there, adding 2 extra and decreasing in next round. And then just knit until the next temporary marker past the begin marker. There we go. And when you hit the temporary marker, remove it and you do same thing. SSK and knit 2 together. Okay? That one is the last new cast and the 3rd extra one, right? SSK. And next 2 stitch will be last extra and first original. Knit 2 together. Okay? If you get confused, you don't need to. Just knit up the only 8 new cast and close that gap later on. Okay? But this way, no hassle. Okay, so now, right after the sleeve connection, you have to do little math to decrease few stitches for sleeves. So I need 3 numbers. Current stitch count, I have 68. And your gold stitch count. Wrap around your wrist like that and count. All right? And I decide I'm going to have a little bigger, sleeve this time. So my goal stitch count is 46 stitches. So obviously I only decreased 22. And then I want you to measure desired length for sleeve from the current location until before the rib. Don't include the rib, okay? And measure. And I have 16 inches that I want to go into knit. Then let's move on to my math template. Okay, guys, so let's find out about sleeve decreasing, how to decrease. Okay, so this is my gauge. So you have to keep the gauge information here. And let's input the numbers you decide. Okay, first of all, the length you want to knit. Okay, from the length you want to knit to find out how many rows you need to knit from now before the rib. And for me, 16 inches, right? And right here, find out row count from the length. So I have to put the number here in the orange section, and I want to knit 16 inch from now, right? So let's see, orange section, 104. I have to knit 104 rows from now. And this pink section is the sleeve, okay? Current stitch count. It was 46, I believe. No, 68, I'm sorry. That was my current stitch count after the connection, okay? And my goal stitch count was 46. So I put 46. And stitch you will decrease on the same row 2 stitch. So I am going to decrease 2 stitch at a time. So I put 2 stitch here. Enter. So let's go down. Pink section. Right here. So the rows you will knit 104. Total decrease in stitch is 22, which is 68 minus 46, right? And stitch decrease on the same row, I put 2. And here comes. How often you decrease? 9.45. So every 9.45 row, you have to decrease. But there's no such a thing, 9.45. If it's close to 9, like 9.1, you should decrease every 9th row. If it's close to 10, like 9.99, you should decrease every 10th row. However, this is right in the middle. What do you want to do? Okay? Because if I decrease every 9th row, probably not enough length. You can't reach 16 inch. So I decide first decreasing is 9th row. And next decreasing is 10th row, which is 19th row, right? And then next row is 9th from the 19th row, so 28th row. You know what I'm saying? So alternate 9th, 10, 9th, 10. Then total of 11 times, which is 22 stitch count, decreasing. Then you knit close to 16 inch. All right? So that's how you decide. So now let's move on to knitting. All right? Okay, so according to my math, again, I just want to make sure I decrease 2 stitch every 9th row and 10th row. That doesn't mean 9th and 10th next. No, 9th, 19th, 28th, 38th, 47th, da la 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 la. Okay, that's what I meant. So this is end of row 8. Okay, and right after I start 9th row, I am going to decrease 1 stitch. So this is end of row 8. Okay, here comes, and then this is 9th start. Knit 1 and easy. Knit 2 together and knit until last 3 stitch. Okay, and SSK and knit 1. Then 2 stitch on the same row, right? So there we go, and then SSK. Then knit 1. So 2 stitch, each stitch, right after and right before. That's it. And knit, knit, knit until next decreasing row. For me, you have to knit another 9 row, and then 10th row I have to decrease. And keep decreasing until your desired decreasing in length, and then add rib, which is the repeat of KBL and PURL 1 with smaller needle. And once you hit the desired length for the rib, let's bind off. You can use one size bigger needle to bind off, but I am going to use the tapestry needle to do the stretchy bind off, because this way more stretchy, believe me. And when you bind off, don't pull the working yarn too hard, but only the first stitch here. Purl 2 together with tapestry needle, and you can pull hard, okay, because you have to connect. And then knit 1, then finally you can drop 1 stitch off, and you just have to repeat. Okay, after this, just pull nice and easy. There you go. And then knit 1, then drop the 1 stitch off. Again, purl 2 together. Do not drop off the stitch yet. You can drop 1 stitch off right after knit 1. And you just, bind off around. That's it. Okay, easy. So there we go. Both sleeve has done. Now, finally, neck. I'm going to use that, end yarn I connected already. If you like it, you want to start from in the center of back, but I don't like weaving off so many times, so I use the leftover end, and you just have to knit up one around. The way you knit up, I did 4 knit up and 1 skip stitch, then start knitting up 4 again. So repeat of 4 knit up and 1 stitch skip. So you have to knit up 4 stitches within 5 stitches space. All right, and you just keep knitting up around, and you can count, because I want you to have pretty much same stitch count both side, but you don't have to. And again, garter stitching round. Okay, after knit up, okay, don't forget to add begin marker or purl. Next on it, and you just have to repeat row number 1 and row number 2. And I I think you should stop row number 1, which is all purl, because so you can actually bind off with knitting stitch. Okay, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful. I was thinking about the maybe I should do the I cord bind off, but I think garter stitch is the best, you know, showing the square part. Okay, so that's about it. Beautiful cable, big cable design with little lacy and seed and the long sleeve, nicely, decreasing down. Okay, and square neck and garter stitch, both side. I like it. Anyway, that's about it. Enjoy knitting. Bye for now.